Hello and welcome to the Bluff Creek Project Podcast. I'm Tate Hieronymus. I'm your host, and today I'm joined by a good friend, Austin Brown. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. Tate, how are you?
I can't complain. Actually, I can. I hate Florida. That's my only complaint.
Beautiful. Well, I try not to complain, but you can complain enough for the both of us.
You're trying to sound like you're better than me, huh? Whatever.
I live in Carpinteria, California, so I got nothing to worry about.
I heard you're on fire over there in California.
It's a little hot.
Is that too soon?
I need to go. I have a virus.
I got COVID Carpinteria 19. Something stupid like that. I don't know.
But no, man, I'm doing good. Today was a good day, productive, just kind of looking at some old photos. It's been nice, kind of a good, reflective day.
Awesome. So, dude, I'm gonna ask you now because I'm just gonna go straight to it. I'm not gonna massage you or anything. I'm just gonna jump right into it. Stupid analogy. Gay, no homo. Anyway, what kind of old photos were you looking at? You're kind of telling me you're reminiscing about our trips in the past, because I've taken you on some bigfooting trips before, against your will sometimes. So, what kind of photos were they?
Kidnapping, Tate. It's called kidnapping. That's what you did.
Well, I'm sorry. It's whatever.
You can't drug someone and then drag them to Northern California.
Yes, you can. Have you heard of a free country?
Yeah, no, I have. So I like to take photos of just about everything. And what it does is it helps me remember. I mean, even if it's not a worthwhile photo, it's still something that helps jog my memory, so to speak. But no, I've got these photos of your truck just covered in bugs. I mean, the bugs look like the starry night sky up in Northern California on the front of your poor truck. It's so bad. Oh, and then I've got the gas prices, right? So we were splitting gas, and you specifically instructed me. You say, "All right, only get premium gas, Austin." But when I'm paying for gas, you know that I'm not going to pay for premium. So that's the secret that you didn't know. I filled your car with unleaded every single time.
Dude. Wow. No wonder my truck's sucking right now. I'm totally kidding.
Your poor spoiled truck has to drink regular gas.
Oh, I come from privilege, so how dare you put regular unleaded in my gas tank? I will never forgive you for that.
Podcast is over.
We're ending this. No, when I fill my gas up, I bring gasoline in wine glasses on a silver platter and pour it into a fine funnel. That's how I fill my truck. And I make my butler wear gloves. Yeah, I actually drive with a butler. My butler drives my truck. I think limos are too overused.
Dude, tell me, do you pay him in Bitcoin or in gold bullion?
Both.
So you got the big bucks. That's what bigfooting does for you. Gives you the big bucks.
Yeah, but dude, I don't wear clothes like a rich person. I'm rich, but I wear overalls and a wife beater. Just whatever gets me through the day to feel comfortable.
It's just because you're so humble. You're the most humble man that I know.
I mean, you never heard what I drove, dude. I drive a Gimlin.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
Okay, I drive a Pacer. Changing cars.
Four-wheel engine. That's all I need to know.
Dude, Pacer from Wayne's World.
Oh, that's a movie I haven't seen. You bring this old uncultured swine on your podcast who hasn't even heard of butlers or wine.
That's funny. Have you never seen that though?
No, never. I saw Biodome. Is that similar?
I don't even. That's so funny because you're the one that's mostly like the film nerd more than I am.
You're right.
That's shocking.
Man.
Now, there's a lot of just truth coming out right now. You were filling my gas with some weird gas. You've never seen this movie. I'm like all kinds of shocked right now. Jeez.
I'm looking at.
Is your name Austin?
No. You know that.
Jeez.
Let's see. What else do I got here? Oh, I've got my old shoes that are up there. They're probably.
I think they're still up there. I don't even know if they're up there still. I don't know.
I left them there by accident. I think the first year that we went. When did we go? Did we go in 2016? I felt like that was the first time we went.
I think that was 2016, July.
Man. Oh, yeah. And there was trees that were in the way, so we were clearing the trees.
So for people listening.
The first time we went, right? I mean, it was like that trail.
Yeah, it was the first time we went. But for people listening, this is Bluff Creek in the area, last camp. The first time we went there, Austin left his shoes there. I think he forgot them there. And then the next time we went back, like in October, they were like, dude, look, they're still here. And like you kept going up with me on the trip, and you would leave them there to see how long they would be left there before someone throws them away. But I think somebody threw them away within the past year or so.
Some do-gooder trying to save the planet. Someone who respects Mother Earth.
I don't like those people.
Me neither. Oh, and let me see. I don't have pictures, but remember when we were putting soda cans in the fire to see if they would explode?
We put one in the fire and we forgot it was in there and it exploded on us.
We're like, wait, how many cans did we put in there? 8 or 9? I think like 5.
No, you're wrong. We put the 12-pack of soda in there. One at a time.
Oh, and then I've got
soda on my car. It was all over my car from exploding. That was so funny. It was like, boom! It would echo in the canyon. And my windshield was covered in soda. It was all sticky and everything. I'm like, this is going to be fun.
I think it was Dr. Pepper, to be like specific. You had like Dr. Pepper all over your car. It was the wax treatment. It was Dr. Pepper wax treatment.
Now a word from our sponsors, Dr. Pepper.
Oh, and I've got photos of your tent within a tent. It's like, so we had like this giant big family tent, and then you set up
I have that. But to be quite honest, it was actually cold though, and to have that tent inside the other tent, it actually was really warm. I almost was sweating in there.
Dang.
To be honest, but whatever.
No, I believe you. It's more insulation, more protection. It's probably darker and probably easier to sleep too.
Yeah, I felt more secure. I felt like if a bear was going to attack me, he'd be confused. So there's another tent inside, and hopefully would wander off.
Wait. I thought I already came in the tent. What's going on? What was in that cooler?
I don't think a bear's ever had to work so hard for his food. Right. It would confuse anybody. It's tentception, man.
It is tentception. It's intense. Can we get crickets on the? Do we have crickets on the soundboard?
I'm not that sophisticated yet. I don't have like the whole setup. I'm using my iPhone, for crying out loud. Come on, give me a break.
What kind of show do you drag me to?
The best low budget one ever. It's just how I do it. Everything. So Austin, so I kept dragging you up on these trips, and you're helping me with a little film project. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that was an interesting experience because, I mean, that was probably the first time where we went out with like an actual purpose. Because usually when we would go out, it would be just to visit the site or just to call for Bigfoot. And then on the side, we would have a good time. We would camp and we would laugh and we'd drink beers and try to hike, but then realize how out of shape we are. But this time, you wanted to produce something and you wanted to make something that had to do with Bluff Creek and had to do with the original Patterson Gimlin video, when you wanted to go out there and film the actual spot. And it was interesting because I've tried to do video things here and there, just myself, but never been part of like a documentary, and certainly not one that my friend was making. So it was really cool. I mean, it was a good opportunity, and I liked having a goal. It's like I was thinking about this today, leading up to this. I was kind of thinking about Bigfooting. I mean, it's almost like fishing. Really. I mean, you go out there, you're all prepared, you've got all your gear, but more than anything, you have patience and a willingness to go with the flow, and maybe not what you hope is going to happen or what you expect is going to happen. But you have patience on your side, and you enjoy the process. And I think that's one thing specifically about you, Tate, is you really, really do enjoy the process, and you're willing to be patient and, but at the same time, do it right. You don't rush through things or do things improperly. It's like, no, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. And so the documentary was just an extension of that. Is let's take these little excursions that we do, these little visits that we do, and try to actually make something and produce something other people can watch and enjoy and maybe spark their interest as well.
Yeah, that was a good goal. And I definitely learned a lot for next time I want to produce something, because I know what not to do and what to do, because you're never usually going to get something right on the first time. If you do, you're like a freak of nature. But
learn through your mistakes.
Yeah, for the most part, you never get anything right on the first go around. But with more experience and more times you do it, you definitely learn and you get better and better with your craft. And so there's definitely a lot of things I've learned doing it that I'm like, I could have done this and done it way more easier before. And what's cool with technology getting cheaper, you can do so much too. And the phones are so complicated, you can do almost everything on your phone. It's insane.
The pace of technology is making it so that everyone can use it and everyone has good features too. I mean, these are powerful products.
No kidding. What was the I know what it was like, but what was it like trying to film everything?
It was difficult. It was hard to try to figure out what would be like most relevant to shoot. Would it be part of the drive there? Would it be tracks that we happen to see along the way? Do you just film everything all the time, no matter where you are or what you're doing, just to try to capture the whole experience? I'd say that was kind of what I was feeling. It's like, oh, that would be good to film, or that would be good to film, or that would be good to film. But here's the thing, that doesn't really make a very focused film or focused documentary. So I came up with all this just random footage and random we can't even use because it doesn't have anything to do with anything.
More like nature footage or something.
Yeah. But it was nice. I have to say, this is probably the most enjoyable part about it, is that I felt like what I was doing was important. And I felt like what I was doing was professional. And I was like, okay, this is going to be such a good shot. Oh man, I'm a genius for thinking of this. This is going to turn out so good. And then I come bring the footage home later and I'm like, this is garbage. Like, no one's going to watch this. I have no idea how hard it is. It must be really, really hard. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like for people that do this stuff for real.
It's definitely hard. And it's definitely harder to do it in an area that's more not as forgiving, when the elements are not on your side. Because we were hiking up a creek and you had a camera and I had a camera and a camera bag and a backpack. You got a backpack. And we're hiking up this creek in water up to our knees. And it's not easy. I mean, there's definitely a lot of easier ways you can do it. And it's definitely, like I said, it teaches you for next time if you ever do a project like it. Like, okay, now I know what I need to do and what needs to be has more focus on. And I think one of the things I learned is having a narrator to help narrate in between things that happen is a big crucial part, especially for documentary, because otherwise it's just a lot of talking, like somebody else explaining a bunch of things.
One main person threading it all together and tying all the events together and giving you context for everything that you see.
Exactly. And that's what I remember when we went to San Francisco. Dude, that was the worst experience I've had because I liked it, but I didn't know about it because it was like so much talking and it was 30 minutes long and I had to pee and I was in the front seat. I was like, if I walk out to go to the bathroom, people are going to think I'm walking out on my own film. And there was 30 minutes of the whole thing I had to sit through. I'm like, this just sucks. But whatever. I made it through.
You're talking about the showing, like the showing that we had in San Francisco?
Yeah, because it was originally 30 minutes long.
And you shortened it down to like 15 now.
I shortened it way down, like 15 minutes.
Wow.
And I had narration. I added narration, and I'm so happy that happened too. So that was super cool. I think it definitely made it.
With Rainn Wilson's wife, right?
Yeah, Rainn Wilson's wife, Holiday Reinhorn, she was kind enough to narrate it, and it sounded amazing.
That is awesome. Wow.
We were at their house and we were listening to the playback, and she's like, man, that sounds really good, surprisingly, because there was like this reverb on the recording, and it was like, that's super cool. And then when I edited it with the footage, it was like, oh, I couldn't ask for anything better. It was super cool, sounded great. I was super happy with the finished thing and how it came out. So I'm glad that whole process is over, though, of doing it, because I think it took us 3 years to just do everything.
Pretty much. I mean, between, the gaps of time we were doing other things with our lives, or, trying to collaborate everything together and not exactly sure how to do it, and procrastinating, or whatever you want to call it. It was a long time coming, and it's nice to be done and able to move on to the next thing,
Yeah. And like, you can't film a documentary in 2 days or 3 days of being up there. I think because I used footage from like previous trips, and then I used footage from trips when we were there, and then trips before and after. And then there was that interview with Bob Gimlin I wanted to get to add to it. And so that was like 3 years into filming just everything. So it definitely took a long time. And then getting Holiday schedule to narrate it, that also took time. And then there's just I'm glad we finished it and did it. It's super cool to have that we've made, but it was a process for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, the way the circumstances happened to make it finish was not what you were expecting, or not what you were ready for. It's like, you think, oh, it's a documentary. If it's only going to be 30 minutes long, I mean, how much footage do you really need, or how much do you really need? And it turns out you need a lot. I mean, it's hard work.
For at least an hour-long documentary, you need a lot of good footage, a lot of good information, but information that's not boring to hear that you'll fall asleep to. You got to really capture people's attention. And so I will say, to do something an hour long is definitely very hard. I mean, in my opinion, I would say to start out, if you want to do starting out in that, do shorter things like 15 minutes. It's much easier to fill, and you kind of know what to expect. And it's good to practice to do something that short, and you can go along from there and get better at it as you go along.
That's good advice. I mean, you picked a hard subject too. I mean, Bigfoot. I mean, it's hard in the sense that not a lot of people know about it, and about the nuances of it and how everything actually works in the Bigfoot community. So for you to try to educate everyone and at the same time show them the relevant footage, it's a difficult subject to tackle, other than something that a lot of people probably already know a lot about, like pizza or Netflix or something. It's like, whoa, I already know a lot about that, so this should be easy.
No kidding. Well, like, I'm trying to do a new documentary. I'm working on it. I'll probably start. I'm actually going to Portland, Oregon on the 31st through November 4th. And I'm going to start a new documentary and I'm going to start filming in Portland while I'm there. But
Dude.
I was thinking about this. I saw this documentary that the Rodney Asher, who made the documentary Room 237 about from The Shining. I looked up reviews on his movie that I never knew about that was released in 2015. It's called The Nightmare. And it's about sleep paralysis. And
Yeah.
so I've always heard like people are always like Bigfoot's paranormal and stuff. And I've always thought like I've had sleep paralysis and I know I've had it before. And like when I've had sleep paralysis, I've actually seen things. Like some people see things when they get it. It's like hallucination, but not really, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like a dream when you're awake.
But you can't move, you can't talk, you can't do anything. You can only see, and you feel like this pressure on your chest. So people think it's like demons or something. And then like from hearing people in the Bigfoot community say like they've had weird things when they're sleeping like that, I would think something cool would be that no one's ever really touched on yet. Is there a correlation between Bigfoot's, the phenomenon of Bigfoot and sleep paralysis? Or is the whole thing people are thinking is Bigfoot's because people think they're, you know, spirits or whatever, like something like that? Is it
Are
really,
they related? And if they are, in what sense are they related?
yeah, or is it just the phenomenon of sleep paralysis and people are mistaking it for something else?
Right.
Yeah, because one, and I think it makes sense to me personally that it could be sleep paralysis, what these people are feeling, even though they swear up and down it's not. The conditions to get sleep paralysis is stress. And I know when Bigfooters are out there, if they're really taking it serious, they are under a lot of stress. And you have irregular sleep, which is a big deal because sometimes they're up late hours, which is another factor. And sometimes a lot of these guys, if they're having a good time, they're drinking beer too. So there's all these factors in. And when you go to bed late with alcohol or sugar, you're laying on your back, and laying on your back is a trigger. And that's what can trigger sleep paralysis. And then with sleep paralysis, people get all these weird things that, oh, there was a demon and he was trying to tell me something, or he was sitting on my chest, something weird. So
Right.
I think that'd be something cool to talk about if they're either going hand in hand or they're not, which I'm pretty sure it's not. I know for a fact that it's not.
Sure. Well, yeah, it's an interesting thought too, because I mean, you notice more when you're looking for something, right? So if you just happen to be looking for Bigfoot, you're paying kind of more than the usual attention to your own body, to your surroundings, to events. Whereas if you were to get sleep paralysis when you were just at home, you would probably just shrug it off like, oh, this is no big deal. I'm just at home. I'm get a glass of water, go to bed, maybe take a sleeping pill next time or something like that. But because you're out there looking for Bigfoot, you're going to correlation related. Bigfoot causes this,
It's yeah, I think that'd be kind of cool part of the film to touch on, and like
how
is it
how it can play with the mind and what's real and what's imaginary, and are you
playing
feeling
like
and,
playing like devil's advocate, I guess, really with the whole thing.
yeah, it could be.
Like, I mean, there's always an answer to something if you're willing to look for it. You got to put in the time to look for it. It's with like, I don't care what subject it is. It's with sports, or if you're wanting to do like, if you want to be a marine biologist, you got to put in time and look for answers, because there's always answers to something. So there's got to be an answer as to why people are. I think it's because, like you're saying, yeah, they're in a place where there's Bigfoot activity, or like in Native American lands that are holy, and weird things happen, and something like that happens. They're going to say it's because, oh, the spirits don't want us there or something like that, when it really is just sleep paralysis, which is actually a really common thing that happens in people throughout the world, to be quite honest.
Yeah, so kind of coming at it from an honest, like debunking sort of way, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. More like, yeah, because it's more like, yeah, that's not really what's happening. I believe it's definitely this, but more, I'm not trying to force my opinion on anybody. It's more like I'm pretty sure I'm giving my strong opinion on what I think it is in a nice, easy way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Sort of drawing it out and explaining it logically from a logical perspective. How does this all lay out? And does that sound right to you? I'll let you be the judge.
Yeah. And that's what I think it is, to be honest, because honestly, sleep paralysis is very, very weird. It's scary. One time I was sleeping at my home in Ventura before we moved, and I was having an episode of sleep paralysis, and I saw like this shadow. It was like a kid. It was like thick shadows. It was silhouettes basically. And I saw this kid running from my bedroom door to like a dresser that wasn't even there in my room, and he was like getting into something, like reaching on the top. And I went to scream and say, "Hey," nothing came out, and I was trying to move and I could not move, but my eyes could see everything. I'm like, dude, it's sleep paralysis, because I've had sleep paralysis before in the past before that, and it definitely messes with you. It's scary if you don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm. So you have the inside look. You have the personal perspective. Hey, this has happened to me before. It's happened to me out here. That's spooky stuff, man. That's that would trip me out, man. Like I used to get like humdinger nightmares when I was really little. Like when I was a kid, I would wake up screaming, but never while I was awake. Never. I mean, yeah, I would look at shadows in my room and just be terrified and imagine everything. That's not a shadow. That's a Batman, how I would describe it or whatever. But then mom would turn on all the lights and give me my teddy bear and tell me everything's going to be okay. Chocolate milk and cookies. But I don't know, these days, man, I ain't had a nightmare in like a decade at least, which is nice. I'm not complaining. I'm blessed. I'm very happy about it. But I'm sorry about you, man. That's gotta be freaky.
I don't like having it, but I kind of like that I have it, if that makes sense. I feel like there's a unique look on it that I don't know. It's just weird. I like having it, but I hate when it happens. It's a love-hate thing, because it's like weird that it's happening, but it's kind of cool at the same time, but I don't want it to happen, you know?
You're conscious of something that you weren't necessarily conscious of before. And sometimes being conscious of something isn't always a good thing. It's like, I was happier when I didn't know that and that wasn't happening.
No, for sure. But it doesn't happen when I'm awake. It's like sleep paralysis, if you look it up, it happens when you're falling asleep or when you're waking up. And I can't remember how it all works out.
Yeah, I've heard that. I said you most become aware of your dreams not when you're dead asleep, but right before you're about to wake up or right as you're falling asleep. It's the in between being conscious and being unconscious. And it plays with if you become aware during that state, you can see and hear some freaky stuff.
Yeah. Well, like that's why some people, maybe not sleep paralysis, like it's funny because I've like been falling asleep when I've been really tired. Like I've just heard things or just things that were distorted. But it's like when you're falling asleep and you're kind of dreaming at the same time, but you're half awake. And I'm describing something different than sleep paralysis, but I've had that happen. I think anybody's had, like, when they're kind of falling asleep and they're really tired, but they're like half conscious too, and they're just dreaming a little bit. I don't know. It's weird. The human body is weird.
It's for sure.
Human mind is definitely weird.
That's probably what I'm most interested in. Like when it comes to Bigfoot, is how the human mind comes into play. Like imagining things or filling in the void of what you see. What is the nature of belief? What is the nature of truth? I think that in general, people that believe in Bigfoot, especially people that actively try to find Bigfoot or Bigfoot researchers, they have a higher level of faith than I think most people do. I think a lot of us are kind of stuck in the physical world, We only believe in what we can see, hear, or touch, or I have a cousin who says that he saw this or saw that. But I mean, when you have an experience, I mean, when it's you in the driver's seat and you know what you saw, but nobody else believes you, I mean, how unnerving would that be? And I think it's interesting, like the process of belief and faith and how much that comes into it. I mean, you've got all this faith and all this belief that drives you to drive all the way out there in the middle of nowhere. It's like, okay, let's see what we get. And you're hoping and you're expecting and whatnot. But at the same time, you're trying to be a critic and you're trying to be skeptical and you're trying to disprove what you see, you know, because you want it to be real and factual. And I have a lot of respect for Bigfoot enthusiasts because, you know, number one, they've got the belief side where they believe in something beyond, you know, what they see every day. And they've also got the skeptic side where they're willing to second guess and ask themselves the deeper questions and really get to the bottom of it because they want people to know the truth. You know?
Exactly. And it's like funny you say about like how you said it before, like people seeing things and believing in it, or how the human mind works when it comes to something like that. One thing that it comes into mind, pareidolia, I think, if that's how you pronounce it. That's like the phenomenon, like where you look in the clouds and you see like a bunny or something or a face. And
yeah.
I think Bigfoot researchers and, you know, enthusiasts have to be aware of that, because that can, and I think that's where a lot of really big time believers that's where they see Bigfoot and everything. They're like, dude, there's a Bigfoot there. Or you hear that or something? Dude, there's a face right there. When really, it's the way your mind works, and it's putting a face on like a leaf. That's or a tree trunk. You know, you gotta definitely be aware of that, and it's good to be really involved and believe really good, or believe a lot in the subject, like, you know, for a fact that it's real, but at the same time you don't want to fall prey of the power of suggestion where everything is Bigfoot. You got to be able to say, nope, that was probably not it, because I've been up in Bluff Creek a couple of times and I've heard knocks and stuff, but could it have been a pine cone falling from a tree and landing on a log that was down on the ground and made like a loud knock, you know? So you gotta be willing to accept that it could be or could not be, but either way, it's still fun going out there. Like Kip Morrill says, who is our host and part of the Bluff Creek Project, he said it's like it's not the destination, it's the journey. Yeah. Because even if nothing happens, you're still with your friends and you have a good time. Bigfoot is just an added bonus if something happens.
Yeah.
It's very important, like that. You want to go out there, yeah, it's fun to go out there for Bigfoot, but don't like make that like something's definitely going to happen, because otherwise you're going to be disappointed the whole time. Just go out there and be like, I'm going to go out there and enjoy the trip, and if something happens, that's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. Yeah, you're just like right on the proper edge of optimism to where you believe in it enough to give it a try. I'll give everything a try. I'll watch this Bigfoot video. I'll watch that Bigfoot video, but at the same time, not get discouraged when it isn't the one every single time. You have to really love the process, and you have to really love, like you said, the journey. It's not all about the destination. What, you only do things because you're going to get something out of it. You only do things because there's going to be some big payoff at the end of the tunnel. How about you just enjoy the process and just enjoy the search? And fishing. Why do guys go fishing? Why do guys go golf? Is it because, you know, oh, I only want to get a hole in one. If I don't get a hole in one, then I'm going to quit. What kind of attitude is that? Why don't you just go out there and just have a blast, which is what we always did.
And it worked out. And you know, like us having a blast and going out there having fun, we've had something weird happen that I kind of want you to talk about. It was because, like, we were just out there hanging with people, and, you know, it was actually a fun day. And we weren't expecting anything to happen. We were drinking beer, eating like chips and salsa. And we're like, let's just go see what happens. And then something freaky did happen. I think I talked about it on another podcast, that encounter, but I want to get your perspective. I want to have people hear what you think about it.
All right. Do you want me to see if I can just go? Do you want me to just do my perspective in, less than 5 minutes?
Just do what you want. Yeah. then I can try and do mine.
So it was this whole long day of us. I think we were with Matt Moneymaker and crew. There was some other people out there. We were visiting some different sites to take a look at a few different things, mapping a few different things out. Not really specifically looking hard for anything. It felt more like a field trip. Like we're just kind of doing this field trip, going here, going there, yada, yada, yada. And everyone else was going to head back home. But then you and I had already, sorry?
No, like, yeah, you were saying what we were doing. There was that lady. She was a really nice lady that had a sighting back in like the 80s.
Was it Renee?
I think so. I can't remember.
I hope I remember. If not, I'm sorry, Renee, or whoever your name is.
And then there was that gentleman with his wife that was going down the grapevine that recorded one up on the hill.
Yeah, walking down the hill. He's got like hunter's eyes. He's like a hunter, so he's got really, really good vision.
So yeah, that's for the backstory of the backstory. We were out there looking at people's sites, and then the place where I found a possible track. And just so you know, I don't know if you know this, that guy that got that video of the Bigfoot on the grapevine, it was the same year when we went out there. It was just he got his video in October, and it was July. And it was October when we all met out. It was the same year, though.
Wow. Connection. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the context. So, yeah, we weren't just flittering around going to random places. We were going to people's destinations where they had sightings. So, and then finally we ended up where you had your sighting. Well, not sighting, but there was a print. And so you wanted to get a cast of the print and the whole deal. And Matt looked at it and he was like, wow, that's a pretty good print. Okay. And so things are winding down. It is dark. It is cold. We've got a bunch of beer in the back that I'm just dying to get to. We've been driving too long, around too many people. And it was really like, it was out of obligation that I think you grabbed me and was like, hey, let's go do one quick little call real quick. Let's just, before we go to bed, I know you want to relax. Like, okay, let's do that. And we're all the way at the top of this hill, that takes like half an hour to get up there. Just
the tent was already set up too.
Okay, yeah, we already set up the tent. We were already in bed. I mean, basically.
We were pretty much in our pajamas and had like our little teddy bears on our arms.
You're not supposed to tell them about the teddy bears. Anyways, so I am basically following you. And I'm just like, okay, I'm going to just humor Tate. And I'm going to go with Tate, and I'm just going to follow him, and he's going to do his call, and that's going to be it. We're going to go back. We're going to do what I want, which is just relax and not look for Bigfoot, because we're not going to fight Bigfoot tonight, Tate. Sorry to break it to you, but we're not. So you do a couple calls. You do one call like up here, and then you do one call like down there, or something like that, and then you hear something. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, of course Tate hears something. I've got my beanie on and I've got my headlamp on and I have bad hearing as it is. So I didn't hear nothing. All I heard was you did a call, and then you said you heard a response. I heard something. I heard it. I heard a call. And I'm like, oh, okay, so let's go to the top of this ridge. And so we're going up the top of this ridge, and I get my headlamp. It's like, all right, I'm going to prove to Tate that there's nothing there. So I get out my headlamp and I put it on like the highest setting, and all I'm doing is just scanning the ridge, right? So, and as I'm scanning the ridge, I think it was either from left to right or right to left or down to up or whatever, I see two dots looking right at me. And that's all it was to me at first. To me at first, it was just two dots. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that is. That could be eyes, like an owl's eyes or a deer's eyes, or could be reflection of something.
Or like lights off in the distance.
That's what I was thinking. So I was thinking it could be city lights way back behind the trees. But then as I'm kind of like, I'm kind of bobbing left and I'm bobbing right, and I'm trying to get the 3D of it, like the perspective. And it's like, no, those are eyes. And those are eyes that are probably less than.
We thought 50 feet at first.
That's what
I swear to God, we thought it was 50 feet.
They were big. They were big eyes, and they were wide apart and non-blinking.
I noticed that too, because I had a headlamp on and I was using a thermal, but I always said I never saw it through the thermal because I was brand new using one, and you were using the headlamp, so I was kind of relying on you seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely
natural human vision, yeah.
I definitely saw those eyes with my headlamp, but yeah, you go ahead.
And so I saw the two eyes, and I just kind of like looked at you, and I was kind of like, okay, this is where Tate comes in, and he knows exactly what to do. He's going to tell me, oh, no, that's an owl, or that's a deer, or God forbid, that's a bear, or something like that. But I was just like, am I seeing this? I think that's all I really thought the whole time, was just trying to disprove what I was seeing. Am I seeing this? Am I really seeing this? What exactly am I seeing? And I'm like, Tate, do you see that? You know, I think I sound more confident saying it now, but I think I was.
But dude, you sounded super insecure and like didn't know what to do at the time. You're like, there was almost like a tremble in your voice. You're like, Tate, what is that?
I remember now that you mentioned it, I felt paralyzed. I felt totally paralyzed.
I don't know if you had this feeling, but I described the feeling like you're super jazzed about something, but you're also terrified and you're pumping full of adrenaline all simultaneously. That's I didn't know. It was almost like you had too many beers, but you were really buzzed, but you weren't drunk, and you were totally like normal, if that made any sense.
So you're on the level where like you can sort of think sensibly about things, but at the same time you are you're kind of jacked up a little bit, like
yeah. I don't know, it's kind of like when you get in a car, almost get in a car accident, your heart's racing and you're scared, but you have that feeling that you're excited about something that, I don't know, like you're going on a trip that you've always wanted to go to a place and you're really excited. It's like those two feelings combined into one, weirdly.
Like half of you is afraid and wants to go away, but half of you is like in anticipation and hopeful and expecting and wants to know what's going to happen next.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyways, to try to verify what I was saying, I didn't even ask you. You didn't, did you tell me to do a call back, or did I just do that?
I think you just did it.
It's like, I was trying to like narrow down my options. Like, okay, if I do a call, then what we're going to see is the eyes are going to instantly go away because it's a deer, and the deer is going to get scared by my call, right? Like that's what I thought was going to happen. So I did the call. I went, whoop, nothing happened. And then
silent.
It was just dead silence. And all of a sudden, just in a very conscious, deliberate manner, the eyes turned away. It was almost as if the figure was just turning around and going from back where it came.
Yeah, because I think it turned around and
calmly. Yeah,
I think it turned around and stood up, because when I looked at the video later the next day, when I got home, it definitely stood up.
Yeah.
So, and that's when you were saying it's gone, because I was like trusting on you, like I said again, and that's when where it stood up. I put the camera down when you left.
Oh, when you examined the footage, yeah.
Yeah, because I wasn't seeing it. Like if I would have saw it, I would have kept filming.
Maybe the eyes went behind like a leaf or something like that, because it was like right under a tree.
I think you're right. I think it turned around because it was going to go down the hill, because there was a hill right behind it.
And
then when it turned around, it stood up to walk down the hill, and then that's when we left. But like, if I could go back and do it over again, I would. But I would record no matter what and keep recording. And you know what's funny? It's two things about, or one thing about it and another thing about sightings in general. the first thing about that whole experience was before we went out looking, because we only walked like maybe a minute from our car. That's how close we were to our car.
Mm.
I was kind of getting nervous already being there. I'm like, dude, let's just go camp with other people or whatever. You're like, nah, you're just worrying too much. And then I remember like right after it happened, you're like, yeah, I wouldn't mind a change of scenery. That's exactly what you said.
Because I was too lazy to pack back up and drive all the way back down. It's like, oh my gosh, when I'm asleep, it's not going to matter. And at that point, it's like, I'm not sure if I can sleep after this. I wouldn't mind a change of scenery. That's classic.
But you know what's funny is like after we walked back and got our nerves under control, we actually did walk over there together where it was, and we didn't really see anything.
Yeah.
So we ended up packing up and then going back down to camp, down all the way where people were, and we went back up the next day.
During the daylight, see everything.
Yeah, to look, we thought we may have saw a couple of tracks. There was too many pine needles everywhere. It was just too hard to really tell what was there and stuff. But I mean, for me, it was a really crazy, cool experience. And you're skeptical about the subject of Bigfoot, which I found was crazy.
Yeah,
it's you say you can't. You don't want to call that it's Bigfoot, but you can't describe it either. What you saw.
Pretty much, you're exactly right. So in my skeptic, critical, cynical old man mind, it's like I don't want to believe, and I want to believe it's like, okay, Austin, it was late, you might have had a beer or two, there's a lot of things out in the woods and you never know what it is and you can't trust your eyes. So when you do see it in the daytime, you're going to be able to get a better idea of what didn't happen. But I was really hoping to see at least more options as to what it could have been. And I was disappointed in that. Wow, that spot is kind of impossible for it to have been anything else. And all the circumstances surrounding the entire experience, I'm bouncing off all the details, trying to use a process elimination. Okay, couldn't have been this, couldn't have been that, couldn't have been that. Not that I'm an animal expert or I would really know the difference, but I'm left with the conclusion that if it wasn't a Bigfoot,
what the heck was it?
I don't know what it could have been.
Yeah, because where we were, it was literally on a ridge, and on either side of that ridge it was pretty steep. Like if you lost your footing, you'd be falling down. And another thing is too, that day there was a bunch of hunters and deer. Like there were so many deer, and like from doing research and learning about it, in places where there's a lot of deer, people tend to have sightings of something weird. So in my opinion, was it a deer? I don't think it could have been, because the way the behavior, like again, deers don't stand there and stare at you for 2-3 minutes. And especially if you make noise, they generally like stare at you probably for a few seconds and walk off.
Yeah.
Bears don't do that. Maybe mountain lion, but I don't see that happening either. And could have been a human. I don't think so, because if someone was going to walk past us, we would have heard them. Unless they literally walked down all the way and then walked up.
Yeah. And do humans have reflective eyes?
No.
Nocturnal animals have reflective. So here are the details that make me think that it could have been a Bigfoot, or that it is a Bigfoot. When I was scanning the ridge to see, nothing was what I was hoping to see. It was already looking right at us.
Yes.
Now it wasn't like looking at its environment. It wasn't looking.
It was watching us come up.
Looking at us.
Dude, because before we even went up to the ridge, it probably saw lights walking in that direction. And like you said, it was already watching us and we didn't know it. And when you were scanning, not seeing anything, and then you saw it and it was already looking at you.
Mm-hmm. And the way that I felt, like this is like the uncanny area. You can't prove this or anything like that. You know that feeling when you feel like someone's watching you and you look over in their direction and they are looking at you? I didn't feel like it was some animal looking at me. Like I felt like it was someone looking at me. That's just how I felt. Like I felt like there's a conscious being that is of a higher level of intelligence
looking at me.
Right at me. And then the proof that gets me too is all of the deliberate maneuvers. You know, the call that you heard. I wish I would have heard it. I think if I would have heard it, I would be more of a believer, but I didn't hear the call. But there was the call. It was looking right at us. And then the deliberate turnaround. And like you said in the video, I didn't see this part, but when it stood up. Now, those are all just very conscious, slow, deliberate moves where it seems like something is making a choice. And that's what I felt as I was looking at it. This is something that is making decisions of its own fruition.
Well, yeah, and well-being. Yeah. And you know, another thing too is I find it interesting that I did hear it and you didn't. So, I mean, if I never heard anything, I don't think we would have went over there. No chance.
Never.
Nope. And the other thing is, why did we go up to a higher spot to look at it? Why didn't we cut across where we heard it? You know? And another thing, I think it knew it was safe too, because when we went back in the daylight where we were standing and where it was, to run towards it, we would have had to either run down a trail and go up to where it was over a hill, and it would have heard that. Any animal would have heard that a mile away. And to run in a straight line from the sight line that we had, it was on a slope and there were trees and like rocks in the way. And there's no way you could have ran out of it in the middle of the night like that.
No, we would have killed ourselves trying to chase it. Like it would be fine, but we would be killing ourselves.
And the next day we went back there and it was like 300 yards.
Yeah. Was it 300 yards or 300 feet? I don't remember.
300. Oh, maybe 300 feet. I can't remember.
I feel like it was like 300 or 315 feet. I feel like it was right. But we thought it was like 50 feet away.
Yeah.
Just kind of a testament to how big it must have been. And that was another kicker for me. Going there in the daytime and seeing all those circumstances, like, those eyes were like as bright as headlights. And they felt like they were just right there.
Dude, like, no joke. It felt like, to describe it to somebody, it'd be like if somebody was standing maybe 50 feet. Okay, let's just do this for argument's sake. Let's say they're standing back 100 feet and they used like two giant spotlights. They shined it at you in the dark. It would feel like you're 50 feet away. In reality, it's further away, but that's how big it felt.
Right, because it's light in the middle of intense dark.
I mean, I did not expect anything to happen either, but I remember being so jazzed too. I think you were kind of almost annoyed.
Yeah, I was, because it's like, oh, great. Now this is going to encourage Tate and he's going to drag me out and kidnap me for more adventures.
Which I think I did a couple more times.
Oh, you know it.
But whatever.
No, that was a really interesting experience. I mean, that's how it's like you said too. It's like you feel all your different emotions at once. You feel fear. You feel like you want to run towards it. You feel like you want to find out. You feel frustrated because you didn't see everything, and you're thinking about, I should have been paying more attention. And yeah, it was really cool. Really.
There's so many things I would have done differently for sure if I could go back, but I can't. I wish we would have camped there. That was one of the things I wish we could have done differently. So if that happened all over again, I would do it differently. I would try and run after it. I would camp at the spot to see what would come next, you know. But
Or you would say, Austin, go run after it. I'll stay here and call for backup.
Pretty much. Austin, go stand next to it and see how tall it really is. I can't tell from over here.
No, we need you for scale, Austin.
Oh my God. That was funny because we actually went back the next day and did like a recreation or tried to do it.
Yeah.
It didn't come out the same.
Flashlights and we got a measuring stick and the whole deal.
Yeah. We very poorly did it. We very poorly tried to recreate everything.
What are you talking about, Tate? It was a perfect scientific recreation. We went over every detail in a microscopic level.
I think that's going to be another part of my film that I'm making is that whole encounter of everything that happened. I'm going to do a proper recreation of it, do it almost exactly to a T of what happened. So I can get we can get like a really good idea of everything. So that's definitely something I've been wanting to do for quite a while now, and actually do a proper investigation of it and see really what it was or could have been. Like, to me, I believe it was a Bigfoot just from everything that happened and from everything that I know. But there's always what if it's not. I'm always allowing some room to, say that I'm wrong about it. That it was not that. But until that time, from everything I know, from people that I've talked to, from experiences I've had with in other places, I believe it was that. But that's just me personally.
Yeah, totally. But no, I mean, if you could recreate it, then you have the chance to put it all together into one solid thing instead of pulling from different parts of your memory and filling in details here and details there. It's like, okay, if we can kind of recreate it, then we can analyze it a bit better and at the very least use the process of elimination and check some things off the list,
Exactly. So a couple other things I want to talk about before I don't know what time it is. It's 11. It's 11 over here, but it's probably like what, 10 for you?
It's 8.
Oh, it's 8. I forget you're 3 hours behind. But there's the second time we went up to Bluff Creek. Actually, there was a couple of stories of that trip.
We got plenty of stories. We can go for hours.
The secret story that I was going to tell you that I think I told you, but you may have forgot. So it was the second time going back up there. I wanted to go up there for the 50th. That was actually a fun trip for a lot of reasons, and this was one of them. I was like, we were planning to go anyway. You and I were planning it and stuff. And we left Ventura, and from Ventura to where this place is at is like 12 hours from Bluff Creek to Ventura. It's like a 12-hour drive.
Easily.
So we left at like 3 a.m, I think. And I was already talking to Steven Stroyfert about, Steven Stroyfert's with the Bluff Creek Project of Bigfoot books up in Willow Creek, but I was talking to him about it. And he was saying, oh, the gates might be closed because they close the gates around honey season. And it was going to rain the next day. And I didn't know if anybody was going to be there. So I was being optimistic, but I kept quiet about it. I didn't tell you because if I told you, you'd be like, I don't know, let's just not do it,
Mm-hmm.
Knowing you.
Yep, you know me, I'm a party pooper.
And so we finally get to Willow Creek, and I actually run into Steven Stroyfert at the gas station. And I was like talking to him. He's like, oh, we were just out there, so I don't know that the gates might be closed right now. So we already made like 11-hour drive. And so I come back in the car and I tell you, like, I ran to Steven and he said the gates might be closed up there. But don't worry, we'll find another way in.
For nothing.
What?
All of this could have been for nothing.
Yeah, no kidding. It could have been for nothing.
This could have been pointless.
Yeah, we could have made an 11-hour drive for nothing to find out the gates are closed. So that's when I finally told you when we made the long drive and we were already like another hour away. So
that was wise on your part. That was very, very wise. You know me well. I wouldn't be happy about that.
Nope. So we get up there and the gates are open. I was like, to my belief, I'm like, well, hey, look, the gates are open, man. That's awesome.
I was so happy. I was so relieved.
And so my next thought, I was like, okay, it's supposed to rain like the next few days. Nobody's going to be here. And so we get into camp and there's people there. I'm like, okay, cool. There's people here. And, we get out of the tent, we start setting it up and everything. And then I recognized I went over to say hi. And that's when I met Tom Yamarone. And I recognized somebody else. And it was Cliff Barrickman from Finding Bigfoot. I'm like, what are the odds that we go up here and we run into them too?
Unbelievable. I mean, on the same weekend, at the same time, with the chance that it could have been closed and I could have talked you out of it. We could have gone to a different site. We just happened to show up and we've got some of the cast members of Finding Bigfoot.
Yeah, like Bobo was there and Cliff, and it was pretty funny. But
it was at that point that I realized that, like, within myself, that like this trip had been blessed. Like I felt like, okay, this is a sign. We need to be here. We need to pay attention. We can make the most of this.
It was blessed and it was cursed because, and the reason it was cursed is what was really funny. We had the tent set up and we were like, do we want to put the rain tarp on the tent? And we're like, no, it's going to rain tomorrow. And then in the middle of the night, it starts raining. Dude, and the next morning there was puddles of water all over the tent. And my sleeping bag's wet. Marley and I are like snuggled up on my sleeping mat.
Marley is my mother's pit bull, by the way. We brought a dog with us. We brought Marley. She's a sweetheart.
Dude, but it was so funny. You're like, we should put the cover on, and it didn't rain like the next few days after that. It only rained that one night, which was stupid. And all of our stuff was wet the whole trip.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I remember I remember that moment at night. I remember being so gosh darn tired. I mean, after that whole drive and the emotional ups and downs of not knowing if the gate's going to be open and, oh my God, the Finding Bigfoot crew. And, and then finally, we get a few beers in and we're like, all right, let's turn in. Let's go to bed. Like, oh, there's the rain tarp. You think we need it? Nah,
no.
Tonight. This trip has been blessed. Remember? I mean, it's not going to rain. And then I remember waking up in the morning and I think I was exhaling with my nose and I felt like water, like it was like I was breathing out and water was splattering all over my face. And I was like, what's going on? And I woke up and there was literally a puddle in my pillow.
Oh my God.
So of course, we reaped what we sowed. We should have put the tarp on, but we didn't.
Lesson learned. Yeah. But the rest of the trip was cool. At least they let us have campfire with them because we didn't have any dry wood. They got all the dry wood. They gave us a few beers and let us hang out with them. I wanted to leave them alone because I was like, dude, they probably get it all the time. I don't want to be that person. But they ended up inviting us over, and I was like, okay, let's just hang out. They said we could. So it ended up being a memorable, crazy, bad trip at the same time. It was really bizarre.
Yeah.
So before we end, this is the Bluff Creek Project Podcast. The whole thing centers around the Bluff Creek film site area. What is your opinion on the Patterson Gimlin film of the Bigfoot Patty? Do you think it's possible it's real, or is it possible it could be somebody in a costume?
You know what? I know enough to know that I don't know a whole lot, and I'm not the expert.
That's for sure.
I'm humble enough to recognize my limitations. Okay, and but a lot of really good people that know what they're doing and they know what to look for, and they've gone through a lot of different Bigfoot videos and they've filtered out this one, they filtered out that one. They seem to think that it's the most compelling evidence that Bigfoot exists that exists, that's been recorded. And I've never taken more than 5 minutes to look at the video and actually analyze it. So for me to try to give you like my answer would be premature. But if I had to give you an answer, I would say that if so many people have looked at it and analyzed it and say that it's for real, I would be willing to side with them, because I don't have 10 years of experience being able to look at different videos and debunk different things. And I would much rather fall on the experience of my doctor or fall on the experience of my stock investor. It's like, they know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to trust them that they know more than me.
Yeah, that's well said. And like, for me, it's like, it's been 55 or 53 or 54 some years, since that film. There was no CGI in 67. They were filming on 8mm cameras. Could they have hoaxed it? Yes. But how come they have not been able to recreate a costume that has come close to looking as good as that, did in the film? And for me, the fact that nobody can recreate that helps me think it could be real. Oh, and Stanley Kubrick made 2001 Space Odyssey, and there's this film in there with chimps.
Yeah.
People in costumes and ape suits. And for people who know Stanley Kubrick, he is the most anal film director probably of a lot of film directors. Like, that dude, especially on The Shining, I think he made like Shelley Duvall film like a scene 50 times till he got the right scene. That's how anal is.
Yeah, he's incredibly obsessive.
So, and you can tell in that movie, those are costumes. And that's from an anal director,
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think because of that too, and other people have tried, but it just hasn't come close, in my opinion.
That's a really good point. It was made all that time ago, and all this time has elapsed since then. All this new technology has come out since then, and no one has created a more compelling or respected amount of footage to date.
Yeah, and until that day happens, I'm still gonna. I'm allowing room for it to be fake, but I'm 99% sure that it is real, especially from being to the site, meeting people who know. The only living witness to the day that happened, actually meeting Bob Gimlin himself. I don't think he's lying, and to lie for 54, 53 some odd years about it. To hold a lie that long, it will probably wear on you mentally. I don't care who you are. I think anybody that holds a lie, it wears on them.
Especially someone that gets that level of negative attention. I mean, imagine how much negative attention that he's gotten. It'd be so easy if he just washed his hands. I was lying. Leave me alone.
Mm-hmm. But the fact that it hasn't happened yet, I don't know. It's still debated until it's proven or disproven. People are still going to argue it, no matter who they are. Skeptics, believers, whatever you want to, whatever side of the fence you fall on. It's just, I don't know. It's fun to talk about and keep going. It's something fun to do, especially in these crazy times everybody's living in. It gives me something to do, at least. I don't know about other people, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, the search. Something to look for, something to find. You have questions, you want answers. It's very commendable. I love Bigfooters. I mean, they really, they sacrifice a lot of their time, energy, money to try to go out there and look for something. And whether they find something or not, they don't get down. They don't get discouraged, because they enjoy the search and they enjoy the idea. And, there's plenty of people who are skeptics, and there's plenty of people who say Bigfoot doesn't exist, and it's definitely, this, or it's definitely that, or it's definitely not this, or it's not that. What do they believe in?
Exactly.
What are they looking for? Dead end job? Anywho.
Bankruptcy or whatever, or they're in debt. Something like that. But no, that was pretty good said. But anyway, I would like to talk more. My phone's almost dead, and I think we're over an hour. Yeah, probably an hour and 30 minutes, maybe not even that close. But anyway, right. Thank you for agreeing to do this, Austin. Finally, jerk.
Thank you for being patient with me. I had a really good time. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for coming on again. And until next week, we're the Bluff Creek Project Podcast.